Welcome back to Investing Talk podcast. Today we're zeroing in on a company that's, well, it's been lighting up the biotech sector and frankly generating a lot of questions from you, our listeners. Insmed. Yeah, we're tackling that pressing question many of you are asking. Is Insmed a good time to buy right now? We've gathered and sifted through really a mountain of sources from their latest 10 Qs to analyst projections, market sentiment, you name it. The goal is to give you a thorough understanding of this pretty intriguing company. And hey, if you find this discussion valuable, please do hit that subscribe button, give us a like, maybe leave a comment with your thoughts. It really helps us bring more of this focused content to you. And if you'd like to support our work, consider buying us a coffee. The link's below. Also, if there's a specific company you'd like us to look into next, just drop it in the comments. We do read them. All right, let's unpack this. We're going to explore what makes Insmed tick, where the major opportunities might lie, and perhaps most importantly, what risks you absolutely need to be aware of before making any decisions.
Exactly. And our goal, as always, isn't just to list facts, but to help you connect those crucial dots. We'll look at Insmed's financial health, its market valuation, future potential, all woven together, hopefully, to give you a clear, actionable picture.
Okay, perfect. So to kick things off, for those who might not be completely familiar, what exactly is Insmed? What's their main mission? And, what does their recent financial scorecard tell us about how they're actually performing right now?
Yeah, so it's truly fascinating here, I think, is Insmed's laser focus. They're deep into rare disease markets. Their flagship product, Arikayce, it treats a very specific condition, Mycobacterium avium complex, or MACI, lung disease. It's a niche, right, traditionally underserved, gives them a significant foothold. Now, looking at their Q2 2025 10Q, that came out in August 25, we see quarterly revenue hitting around $98 million, and that's showing consistent growth, both quarter over quarter and year over year, mostly Arikayce sales driving that.
98 million, okay. That sounds like a strong growth trajectory on the revenue side. That's positive. But revenue isn't the whole story, is it? Especially with biotech. Are they actually turning a profit yet? Are they, in the black?
No, that's the crucial question, isn't it? While revenue is expanding, the company is, still operating at a net loss. In Q2 2025, that net loss was roughly $120 million. And the loss per share, it's been consistently negative, sitting around minus 70 cents. Now, for, seasoned biotech investors, this isn't necessarily a huge red flag. It's quite common, actually. These developmental biopharma firms, they often incur massive R&D costs, commercialization expenses as they shepherd these new therapies through trials and, eventually bring them to market. It's really an investment in future blockbusters.
Right, I hear you. It's an investment in future growth. But, for the average investor, that negative number, that loss, can be a real worry. How do we distinguish between, like you said, smart investment in growth and just, burning through cash without a clear payoff? What's their balance sheet telling us about stability? Can they keep funding these ambitious projects?
That's an excellent point. It really comes down to their financial runway, how much fuel they have left. So as of June 30, 2025, their balance sheet, it shows substantial liquidity, about $946 million in cash and cash equivalents.
Okay, almost $1 billion. That's a decent cushion.
It is. It's a healthy cushion. However, they also carry approximately $800 million in long-term debt and an accumulated deficit, this is the total losses over time, exceeding $2.4 billion.
Wow.
Yeah. And operating cash flow, still negative. For the first half of 2025, they used about $231 million in net cash just for operations.
Okay, so they have a good cash cushion, which is definitely reassuring. But they are still burning through it at a pretty significant rate. So the question is, how long do they have with that current cash? And is that persistent burn, the main concern for investors trying to gauge sustainability?
Yeah, their cash reserves look robust enough to keep things going for the next several quarters.
Yeah.
So, they have a decent fuel tank for now. But that consistent burn rate, that's absolutely the elephant in the room for investors. It's kind of the ticking clock, right? How long can they operate before they need to go back to the market for more cash? Maybe through more stock offerings, which could dilute current shareholders.
Right. Dilution risk.
Exactly. It's definitely a key risk that needs close monitoring, no doubt about it.
And thinking about these rare disease markets, how does Insmed stack up against competitors? Is this a space where they have a real edge, or are others nipping at their heels?
Their competitive spot is relatively strong, I'd say, mostly because of that deep focus on niche markets and also the orphan drug protection for Arikayce. That status grants them a period of market exclusivity. It's a big barrier to entry.
Okay.
Plus, they have a pipeline, right? Additional late-stage programs targeting other rare diseases. If those are successful, that could significantly expand their market and diversify revenue streams. Now, this creates, I'd say, a moderate competitive risk. Because larger pharma companies, if they see real success here, might eventually try to enter these markets if they become really big and lucrative.
Sure, success breeds competition.
But Insmed definitely has a head start.
Okay, now this next part is often where investors, myself included, sometimes get a bit stuck. When a company like Insmed isn't profitable yet, those standard price-earnings ratios, PE ratios, they're basically useless. So for those of us trying to figure out its true worth, how do we even begin to assess its valuation while it's still in this growth phase?
That's exactly. Yeah, PE is out the window. So for companies like Insmed, commercial stage but not yet profitable, we often pivot. We look at the price-sales ratio, PS. This compares the company's market cap to its total revenue over the past year. As of August 2025, Insmed trades at a PS of around 14x. That's based on trailing 12-month revenue and a market cap of about $5.3 billion.
14 times sales. Okay, how does that compare? Against the broader biotech sector, especially others focused on rare diseases. Is 14x considered high, or is that kind of typical for a company with this kind of pipeline potential?
Yeah, let's put that 14x in context. Typical PS ratios for commercial stage rare disease firms. So companies with products on the market, maybe still building profitability, usually range from maybe 6 to 9x.
6 to 9. Okay, so 14 is quite a bit higher.
It is. Insmed is clearly trading at a premium, significantly richer than that sector average. And that 14x PS, it isn't just a number, right? It's the market basically prepaying for multiple future blockbuster drug approvals. That's what's baked in. It tells us investors are betting heavily, I mean really heavily, on Insmed hitting almost every single pipeline milestone. It's a high-stakes game. Any setback, any trial failure could drastically re-rate the stock downwards. It makes it a true high-risk, high-reward proposition.
That really highlights the level of expectation built into that share price. Okay, what about other valuation methods? Like, what are professional analysts projecting? Are there models confirming this premium or maybe suggesting something different?
Well, consensus analysts discounted cash flow models, DCF models. They typically assign fair values for Insmed somewhere between, say, $25 and $34 per share.
Okay.
So this also implies a high probability of success for new drugs and significant future growth, meaning analysts are, by and large, pretty optimistic about the pipeline too. The current share price, it's trending around $24 to $26, so it's kind of right in that lower end of that analyst range.
Right at the bottom end.
Yeah. But, and this is crucial to remember, valuation in biotech is extremely sensitive to clinical trial outcomes and, successful product launches. Without those additional approvals actually happening, the stock just looks expensive relative to its current revenues.
Yeah.
It really underscores that premium we just talked about.
Okay, so we've dug into the financials, the balance sheet, tried to put a value on its potential. But what's the market itself saying about Insmed right now? Let's shift focus a bit from the company's inner workings to the pulse of its stock price. What are the charts, the technicals, recent headlines telling us?
Right. Looking at the chart data, this is from TradingView as of August 30, 2025. Insmed's share price has basically bounced between $21 and $28 since May 2025. That range formed after a major spike, remember, following those positive clinical trial updates back in April. That was a huge catalyst.
Right, I remember that jump.
Yeah. So currently we see pretty solid support down in the $22, $24 range. That's where buyers tend to step in. And resistance levels seem to be up at $27, $29. That's where sellers often emerge and the price struggles to break higher.
Okay, support and resistance levels noted. Are there any other indicators giving us a sense of its momentum? How are things like moving averages looking or other common technical signals?
Yep, absolutely. The moving averages show the 50-day MA around $25 and the longer-term 200-day MA near $22. And actually, we saw a bullish crossover back in July. The 50-day crossed above the 200-day. That's often seen as a positive signal by technical traders.
The golden cross?
Kind of, yeah. And the relative strength index, the RSI, it's hovering near 55. Think of RSI like a speedometer for price action, right? 50 is neutral. So 55 suggests a neutral to maybe slightly upward bias. No extreme overbought or oversold conditions right now. And the OMACD, another momentum indicator, is showing positive momentum, but with moderate volatility since their Q2 earnings report came out.
All right, so these technicals, they seem to paint a picture of, let's say, moderate stability and maybe some positive momentum after that big April spike. But for a company that really lives or dies by its clinical trials, how much weight should investors truly put on these shorter-term signals? Is it just noise, or does it hint at something deeper? And what about recent news, insider activity? That can sometimes give us a peek behind the curtain, right? See how executives are feeling.
That's a really perceptive question. Because you're right, while technicals show the market's current mood, biotech fundamentals are ultimately about those clinical results. Now, the news front is interesting. We have seen multiple secondary stock offerings, and perhaps more notably, significant insider sales reported in Q3 2025. Those could potentially cap near-term upside.
Yeah.
Put a lid on the stock price. For instance, Director Melvin Cherokee sold 10,000 shares on August 20th, and CEO William Lewis sold a more substantial chunk, 129,805 shares back on June 16th, plus some smaller amounts in June and August as well.
Okay. CEO selling. Is that a definite red flag, or is it just common practice for executives in these types of companies to diversify their holdings, take some money off the table?
Well, most of these sales are done through prearranged 10b5-1 plans. That basically lets executives schedule future stock sales in advance, helps them avoid any accusations of trading on, non-public info. It's standard corporate practice, often tied to stock grants, compensation.
Right, the planned sales.
Exactly. However, the sheer volume here, especially from the CEO,
Mm-hmm.
it does raise eyebrows. It signals something for investors to monitor closely. Does it reflect just prudent diversification or maybe a subtle lack of conviction in near-term upside? It's hard to say for sure.
Yeah, perception matters there.
It does. Despite this selling, though, recent analyst notes from August 25, they mostly maintained overweight or buy ratings. They're citing the pipeline progress, Eric Casey's sales,
Yeah.
but they do universally flag that ongoing cash burn risk is something to watch. And social sentiment among retail investors remains moderately positive, it seems, mostly focusing on that late-stage pipeline potential, not so much the insider sales.
Okay, so the analysts are still generally positive, retail is hopeful, but the insider sales add a layer of caution. Got it. Now, for a biotech company, we know future catalysts are absolutely everything. These are the events that can really move the needle. What should investors be watching for? What could significantly impact Insmed's stock price, both short-term and long-term?
Okay, short term. The Q3 2025 earnings release that's expected early November, that'll be critical for updating the sales trajectory, R&D spending, cash burn rate, all that. Even more impactful, though, could be imminent top-line data from one or more of their phase 3 trials, expected late 2025. That could trigger significant price movement, given how high the market's expectations are for their pipeline.
Binary events, really.
Absolutely. Positive or negative results there can have a dramatic effect on the stock, almost overnight.
And looking further down the road, what are the really big game changers for Insmed, the long-term events that could fundamentally alter their valuation, their whole business?
Long term, it really comes down to new drug approvals, especially for brensocatib or treprostinil liposome inhalation suspension. Those are key pipeline assets. Approvals there could truly drive multi-year revenue inflection, big growth. It would significantly expand their product portfolio, their revenue streams, move them beyond just relying so heavily on ARIKAYCE.
Diversification.
Exactly. We could also potentially see licensing deals, maybe M&A activity, mergers or acquisitions or other strategic partnerships. The sector's consolidating. And lastly, changes in U.S. and international regulatory landscapes for orphan drugs. Those rules could always shift, impacting how easily and profitably they bring drugs to market.
Okay, lots of potential catalysts on the horizon. But with all that potential comes risk, especially in biotech. It's known for being high risk, high reward. So let's talk about the key risk factors specifically tied to Insmed, and then maybe the broader market risks any biotech investor needs to keep in mind.
Yeah, it's stepping back and looking at the whole picture. The stock-specific risks for Insmed are definitely significant. First, those ongoing operating losses and that high cash burn rate we keep mentioning. That means the company might need future capital raises. That could dilute current shareholders if they issue new stock, or it could mean taking on more debt. Neither is ideal.
Right.
And then there's the inherent pipeline failure risk. That's really the biggest bogeyman in biotech, isn't it? Even after drugs show promise early on, those late-stage phase 3 trials are notorious for pitfalls. Think of it like a really high-stakes obstacle course. A single failed hurdle, even right at the end, can just send years of work, billions in investment crashing down, and that dramatically impacts valuation overnight.
Yeah, devastating potential.
And finally, Insmed relies so heavily on ARIKAYCE right now for most of its current revenue. That presents a significant single product risk. If anything, negatives impacts ARIKAYCE's sales competition, pricing pressure, whatever, has an outsized effect on the entire company's health.
Okay, those are the company-specific risks. What about the broader market? Are there sector-wide headwinds that could hit Insmed regardless of how well they execute?
Oh, absolutely. Broader market and sector risks are definitely at play. The biotech sector itself is notoriously volatile. highly sensitive to regulatory news, reimbursement changes, or even just clinical trial results from other companies. Bad news elsewhere can drag down the whole sector.
Sentiment-driven?
Very much so. Furthermore, in risk-off environments, times when investors get nervous and pull back from riskier assets, broader market sell-offs can disproportionately impact high-beta stocks like Insmed. Their stock price might see much larger swings, both up and down, than the general market. Amplifies any downside.
Okay, so bring it all together. What does this mean for someone considering Insmed right now? We've covered a ton of ground. Promising drugs, strong market position, but also significant cash burn, that high valuation, insider sales. Is it a buy? What's the bottom line?
Well, putting it all together, our overall assessment for Insmed comes out to, let's say, a 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10, okay.
Yeah. The rationale is pretty clear, I think.
Yeah.
There's definitely high long-term upside potential if, and that's a big if, their pipeline milestones are met and those additional products actually reach approval. That's the promise, right? That's what excites investors and was built into that premium valuation. However, you have to balance that potential against the current high valuation relative to its peers. The persistent cash burn that necessitates careful future capital management and that notable insider selling, all of those present substantial risks that you just need to be acutely aware of going in.
So given that complex picture, that 610 rating, who is this stock actually best suited for? Is it for every investor or really a particular type?
Yeah, it's definitely better positioned, I think, as a long-term investment, and specifically for experienced investors. People who are comfortable with the inherent, almost binary nature of pipeline and drug development risks in biotech. Investors who understand that success or failure on a single clinical trial can dramatically swing the stock price in either direction, and they can stomach that volatility.
Right, need a strong stomach.
Exactly. It's generally not optimal for short-term trading, unless maybe you're specifically trading around those major known catalyst events like a trial data release with a very clear short-term thesis. But for most people, it's likely a long game with pretty high stakes involved.
Okay. Well, that brings us to the end of our analysis of Insmed. It really is a fascinating example of that high-stakes, high-reward world of biotechnology, where you see this incredible innovation meeting head-on with significant financial hurdles and clinical uncertainty. We really hope this discussion has given you a clearer picture of Insmed and maybe more broadly some ideas on how to think about evaluating companies in this really dynamic sector. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Yeah, ultimately, I think this whole exploration raises a really important question for every investor looking at stocks like this. How much are you truly willing to pay today for future potential, especially when that potential comes wrapped in a significant degree of uncertainty and, well, that ticking clock on cash burn?
Absolutely. A critical question indeed. Remember, everyone, please subscribe, like, and comment to support the show. It really does help. And don't forget, you can buy us a coffee link below or suggest a company for us to explore next time in the comments. Until next time, keep learning and investing wisely.